because we've had these experiences, and there's just things that's like, gosh, I wish I had known in my 20s the things that I know now.
They're really hitting the top of the game. The CEOs are in the succession are becoming the CEOs.
This is the adult reality of making hard choices.
And some of that is you learn by trying. Like, there's just no other way to do it.
And you just keep moving, and you just keep moving. Just keep moving.
Yeah. You do your best, but once you know better, you do better.
Instead of looking at things that were worse, things that were better, it was like I was blown away at my staff. I'm like, oh, I thought they couldn't do anything without me there.
When something keeps happening over and over again, you can think it must be them, but you have to take on that it's you.
Now, when I've said that to entrepreneurial groups, they all get nervous. Oh, I could never do that. I could never do that.
Oh, this is like a whole new way of looking at this situation and a whole skill set.
And we're not in this alone.
We are indeed not in this alone, John Baldoni, because I have got Dr. Michelle K. Johnston with me. And Michelle is a good friend, and we're going to talk about her new book, which is amazing. And I know she's got it with her right there because she's going to show us. There you is. I love it. I love props. I'll
just keep it on my shoulder the whole time.
Well, that would be kind of funny. But you know what? You are fun. You do, like, you make me laugh every time we get together, Michelle, because
well, I'm always hitting you. I'm always hitting you.
Yeah, you are. I
clock you. I haven't clocked the chin yet, but I definitely give you a punch in the arm every time, and we'll tell that story later.
Well, that, and we got to tell the airplane story too, because I think that's a classic. But Michelle Johnston is the Woman of the Year. She's recognized as Woman of the Year, a top 10 executive coach, and a top 500 business thinker. She's passionate and advocate for connection and driven leadership, which we're going to talk a lot about today. She is a global speaker, executive coach, podcast host, and she is a distinguished professor at Loyola University in New Orleans. Michelle, I don't know how you live in New Orleans and don't get in trouble all the time.
It's so fun. This city is so fun. I know.
I looked at going to Tulane, and one of the best decisions I ever made in my pre-adult life was that city might get me in way too much trouble to survive undergraduate school. So, but anyway.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I dedicated my first book to the city of New Orleans, and you might wonder why. Because this city has taught me that you don't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a sin. That's really the only sin in this city, is if you try to be somebody you're not, if you try to be perfect. And so it's really taught me to really have fun. So I'm good at having fun, for sure.
You are indeed. Now, the book is called The Seismic Shift in Leadership.
Should I put it on my shoulder again?
Yes, ma'am, you should. And she co-wrote it with our mentor and one of our people that has changed our lives, Marshall Goldsmith. Now, Michelle, what you talk about, I love this word disconnection, and I talk about it in my new book a lot in Head of Mentals, that we're in this crisis of disconnection. And what does that mean? And what does that mean for leadership today? And I mean, you talk about it as a hidden crisis in the workplace.
Oh,
talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the deal. We cannot ignore the research anymore that is hitting us from all sides. And what is hitting us from all sides? That we are in a crisis of disconnection. Employee engagement hasn't gone up. Burnout is at an all-time high. And what's happening because of our codependency on our phones, that the irony is we don't even talk on our phones anymore. We're just so codependent on the technology and the automation and the AI and it's only going to get worse, right? So our codependency is only going to get worse. And what that is causing is isolation, loneliness, and disconnection. And then what those ailments are causing is premature death, increase in strokes, and increase in heart attack. So A equals B, B equals C, A equals C. Disconnection is literally killing us.
Yeah, I believe that. What do you think the impact in the workforce is? Like in terms of teams and how a company operates and how. I was talking to a CHRO the other day, and she was telling me that she's never before her adult life, and she's sort of at the end of her career. She was talking about she's never seen teams that don't work that are failing at working together because of all the stuff in society, all the politics, all the negativity, all the anxiety about technology and the future. What does the future hold for me? And she said, we've got people on teams that won't even talk to each other, right? They won't even sit next to each other because of maybe a belief system, maybe some other thing. Talk about that a little bit. What's the impact in the work?
And on top of that, Rhett, you have all these teams that are remote. So I was just in California yesterday. I flew back yesterday from California, worked with this incredible hospital system with 25 physician leaders. And here they are. I mean, I was preaching to the choir about this stuff, right? They see it. And yet they are all remote, and they're trying to operate and lead in the same ways pre-pandemic. It doesn't work anymore. You can't be on 10 Zoom meetings back to back and have any connection. You can't be necessarily inspirational. You can't be super motivational. So you have these leaders who are still, that's why I named this book, The Seismic Shift in You, because we have to show up differently as leaders if we want a different outcome. And so one of the physician leaders, we ended up the whole group went to dinner after the workshop. And Rhett, I got the best compliment after this 3-hour workshop talking about how to be a more connected leader and little tweaks you can do. And a group of these physicians came up to me and said, Michelle, that was the best gift you gave to us. I said, oh my gosh, that literally makes my heart full. Tell me more. What do you mean? They said, you gave us permission to actually lean in with heart and humanity, because we still live in this transactional, going back to your question, of a divisive society and how come we're feeling what we're feeling. We can't feel like we can have conversations. We're still in this transactional mode where we're just looking at every day as to how many meetings and what do I need to get accomplished, all virtually. And yet it is not moving the needle. People are not inspired. They're not necessarily productive. They're kind of that whole quiet quitting. They're just checking the boxes. So again, to answer your question, how can we get above this divisiveness we're feeling? We need more face-to-face connection. Bottom line, hands down, we need more time together. So I think the fact that all these people from all over California drove in, some of them drove in 3 hours for this 3-hour meeting, and then we all went to dinner that night. They were feeling grateful because connection is as vital as water and food.
Yeah. And we're craving it right now, right?
We're craving it.
I think we're all craving it. So I get that, like, this shift sort of starts internally. I really get that.
You do. We're aligned in that.
But how does a leader, what do we need to unlearn, I guess?
Yes.
Is the question.
Great question.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
To be a connection-based leader. Right?
Okay, great. So I've learned a lot. Thank goodness. I took an entire sabbatical from Loyola for a year to dive in, read everything I could read, and write this book. And here's what I've learned. The number one shift that we all as humans, no matter if we're leaders or not, we're all leaders, let's be honest, no matter in corporate America or not. We as humans need to go from, the shift needs to be from what to who. So that's a major, major shift. We have been defining success as what. And if there's one person, our mutual mentor, Marshall Goldsmith, who knows more about this than anybody, he is the expert in this, of what leaders feel when they get to the top. So Marshall Goldsmith has coached the top leaders in the world. And he says more often than not, they get to that top rung and they feel empty. Why? Because they had focused on what their whole career and not who. The leaders like an Alan Mulally, right, the former turnaround guy at Ford and Boeing, he ended up feeling great and satisfied because he had focused on who. He was really a relationship leader, right? So I think and that's what I talk about. There's 7 shifts. The most important shift is to shift our mindset from what to who. And then this is what surprised me the most, Rhett. The second most important shift is to recognize that the most important who is you. I thought the second chapter was going to be about, okay, so we shift from what to who, and now let's figure out how to make everyone else number one. No, you're not at your best if you make everybody else number one. You have to be the most important priority in your life. And I think that's why all of those physician leaders came up to me and said, this content is a gift, because they've been trained to put everybody before them. And as physicians, they have gained weight. They're not eating lunch. They're not taking bio breaks. They're taking every meeting that's asked of them. And at the end of the day, they're either empty, burned out, or angry.
Or all of the above. Okay, so what does that look like practically? I mean, what does that mean when you say the focus on you in that way?
Okay.
Does that mean learning to say no? What does that look like?
Okay, so number 3 shift is shift your calendar. So my new quote that I just shared with Kate Snow on NBC News is, show me your calendar and I will show you your priorities. And it's probably going to make you really uncomfortable, because it's probably not what you say are the most important people in your life, because the most important people in your life are not showing up on your calendar, because we're still in the what. Okay, so what does it look like to put you first? You have to hold sacred what fuels you first. So it's not being selfish. We have to get rid of the mentality of, oh my gosh, it's selfish if I put my exercise routine above my family in the morning. Well, if you exercise and put your exercise routine above 7 a.m. meetings, above your family, and then you come home though at 6 o'clock at night and you're good because you began the day with something that fueled you, then it's a win for everybody. So it's figuring out what fuels you, number one, and how to hold those times sacred. So we even talked that shift of calendar. We reinvented the entire calendar system at this 60,000 person company, because they can't, it's not sustainable, Rhett. Starting at 7 a.m., going until 7 p.m., hour back to back virtual meetings with no time to eat or bio breaks, let alone to get up and stretch. It's killing us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's so shift from what to who. Number 2, recognize the most important who is you. And number 3, reinvent your calendar so that you can hold what fuels you sacred. And then the most important relationships in your life, personally and professionally, have to be on your calendar, or else they're not important.
Yeah, that's so good. Because we put those people off, right? We say, well, that's my partner, or those are my kids. They'll understand, right? They'll understand that I have to, do surgery this day, or I have to be, or I have, an important job, and that takes priority, and that's how they feel, right? What place does purpose and direction have here?
Yeah, so this book is about finding, if you really want to find your purpose, your direction has to be your schedule, your calendar, right? So you find your purpose and what fuels you, what builds you up. You figure out the most important relationships to reach your purpose, right? Then you have a plan that is focusing on connection, which will make us healthier. You'll love this. So I finished the sabbatical at Loyola. I've read everything. I finally lift my head up and I said, you know what? I'm going to choose a book to read that doesn't have to do with any of this. When you're like, you give yourself permission to actually, now I get to read something that I want. And my daughter's sleeping in the next room. She's home from college, her senior year in college for holiday break.
Yep.
And
mine too.
Yes. And I promised her, I had her kind of late, and she's my only one. So I promised her that I was going to live to 100. And I've been telling her this since she was a baby. Like, I'm going to live to 100, girl. I got you. I'm going to live to 100. So I decided to pick up a book, Living to 100, thinking I better figure this out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Like, what's the equation?
Yeah.
What are the key ingredients? So this author, who was the former president of NPR, and he runs a longevity institute, he traveled the world and he went after the blue zones and he looked at everything, all the evidence. And he realized it wasn't blue zone, it wasn't diet, it wasn't exercise, it wasn't how much money you made or where you lived. It is social connection.
Yeah.
So I can't even get away from it. Like wherever I turn, whatever I pick up, right? So that whole, to answer your question, purpose and direction has to start with the most important people in your life, starting with you.
Well, let me ask you this then, because when you talk about the longevity thing and stuff, how do you make better connections? Like, what is the secret sauce to making better connections?
Face to face.
Okay.
So I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. So if I were in DC
where
now,
I'm sitting right now, right?
Correct. If I were in DC, I'd say, Rhett, we're going to do this together. We're going to do this face to face. So I'm trying to be much more intentional. I had a review of the book, which cracked me up. It said, the word intentional is used quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I went and counted. The author used the word intentional 26 times. And I was like, heck yes, I did. And I would use it even more, because that's the whole essence of this. We have to be really intentional. We need more face-to-face interaction. So I build my days around as much face-to-face interaction I can get. For example, every Monday morning, I have coffee with my best girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
When Elizabeth's home, every day we try to exercise. We have dinner together at least twice a week. And it's those sorts of things of, okay, my most important person is my daughter for this month because she's going to be home. So how can I make sure that I see her and have her on my calendar? That's the real shift. You've got to be intentional, and you got to put it on your calendar, and it really needs to be face to face.
What is so I just did a TEDx talk, and it went out to the TED because I guess that was editor's pick or whatever. So it went out to the major TED site, and in that I talked about connection, and because so I want to dig more into this, and my view is that face to face is the essential piece, but then in that face to face, it's like things like curiosity.
No, you got to go deep. We have to go deeper.
Right, because I think, again, going back to that connection, we're craving it, and like you said, because of these and all this other stuff and all the distraction. So like, are there things about being in person that you can do to even make it more meaningful?
Yes. And like, can we just pause for a second, Rhett? Congratulations on your successful TED Talk. That's super exciting. I didn't realize that it got editor's pick. That's huge.
Well, I mean, it was a good talk, and it was from the heart, and they pushed me really hard. I had 2 or 3 other topics before I went into that, and they were like, nope, that sucks. Like, you got to do better. You got to think, you got to dig deeper. And so that's where it landed. It was really about connection, and that we're at this sort of precipice. But I actually want to dig more into it, because I want to know how I can, even from getting coached by you, like, how can I make dinners more, meaningful or more connected? How can you make a coffee more like
questioning? It's questioning. And you know who taught me a lot about that is Michael Bungay Stanier.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the shifts is shift your conversations in the book.
Mm-hmm.
One of the shifts towards connection is shift your conversations. And I highlight Michael Bungay Stanier, MBS, and his most recent book is How to Work with Almost Anyone. And so I talk about keystone conversations. And that's one of the things I did with the physician leaders yesterday. I said, how many projects are you all working on together? And they have a gazillion. I said, how many keystone conversations have you had when you sit down, you say, here's how I am at my best. Here's how I work at my worst.
Yeah.
And here's what success would look like. And they said, never. And I said, I know. How crazy is that? We do not have keystone conversations. As a matter of fact, Rhett, this is something that I also write about in the book that I am embarrassed to admit to you, but I've already now admitted it to the world. I went in after having taken a year sabbatical from Loyola to write this book with Marshall Goldsmith. I'm over the moon. I'm elated. And I never had a keystone conversation with him to figure out how this whole project would work until I had Michael Bungay Stanier on my podcast, and he's walking me through the questioning. And I said, Michael, no wonder I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall. So he goes, get off this podcast, call Marshall on the phone, and have a keystone conversation. And that changed everything. So So, to the listeners, what is a Keystone Conversation? It says it's 5 questions. It's just sitting down and going deeper with questioning. So, if it's a work conversation, it's like, yeah, I want to share with you. I'm a last minute big picture doer. I get stuff done, and my creativity comes in bolts at the last minute. I just want to prepare you. Don't take it personally. That's when I'm at my best. I'm at my worst if I'm being micromanaged. So now, Rhett, if we're writing a book together, tell me about you. How are you at your best? How are you at your worst? That's what we're talking about. Really specific questioning to go deeper to understand the personality of the person, their wants, needs, desires, and preferences.
Well, just so happens, you saw one of the last people that did that intro. We ought to talk about a book project because Mark and I started a book project before he passed away, and I promised him that I would finish it, but it's always fun to do it with somebody else. So we should talk about that because it's a really interesting concept.
We should, because Mark is in my book as well. I interviewed him right before he died, and he taught me about surgical empathy and the question of tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. He was brilliant. He was brilliant, and so we'll take that offline. That's a different discussion. I think it's a really fun concept, and in a lot of ways, in line with this, it's about we've become a transactional society and how to make things less transactional. What is the hardest of these sort of 7 shifts? What's the hardest from your perspective to do? I think the hardest is moving from what to who, because I think that's the hardest. Okay. I got to be honest with you. I feel so good at the end of the day, checking off my to-do list of all the what's. And I think most of humans, we feel really good. And if we continue to measure our success, particularly in corporate America, that's not going to work. We'd have to change from what to who. I think that's hard. I think it's also hard giving yourself permission to be your top priority. I think that's really challenging. Those 2 shifts go against convention of how we've been raised. Yeah. The last shift I think is the easiest and one of the most important. The last shift is shift your energy. And since we're becoming more and more and more virtual, we talked about this yesterday in California. All of these leaders, when they show up on back-to-back Zooms, 10 of them every day, they are the most important person to everybody who's showing up because they're the leader. And yet they have no energy. They don't know what the agenda is, what they're trying to accomplish. They haven't had any time. And so we tried to deconstruct, how do you shift your energy, since energy is so palpable and that's how you motivate. How do you shift your energy? So we're all reinventing, as I shared with you, calendars so that you have at least 15 minutes before each meeting so that you can get in the right mental, the right headspace, so that, because a lot of people they refuse to recognize how important their energy is, even on virtual calls. People can feel it through the screen. If you want to be there, if you know why you're there, if you're committed, so I think shift in energy could be our easiest shift. We just have to buffer our calendars to give us space to show up in our best way.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that in the book, and in Fundamentals, we talk about how you're showing up in those things, in those meetings, is bleeding into how they feel. And I mean, what do you think, as you've gotten into this and you've seen, as you're working with, these companies on this, what do you think the end result is? What's the
ROI is there. The ROI is there. So think about it. This is the equation that I look at. I think the connection is the foundation. So I'm a trained researcher, right? So the way I think is independent variables. What is it? M equals YX plus B. What is the equation? I even forget now. But I
was a history major. I have no idea.
M equals. And in any case, it's about independent variables and how they affect the dependent variable. And we all want the dependent variable to be financial performance. So we're trying to figure out what are the independent variables that affect that. So the way that I look at that equation is connection is the foundation that then creates an environment of trust, psychological safety, which then drives risk-taking, innovation, positive risk-taking that drives innovation, which ultimately drives financial performance. So the ROI is there, and I've actually published articles on it, that if you as a leader intentionally, keyword, intentionally create a positive environment that's focused on connection, then sales increase, financial performance increase. So you can't ignore that.
No, to me, it's a missing link. And when we talk about culture, these are the things that conversation is missing, right? These kind of shifts and this kind of work is the missing link. I think we talk about all these things that good benefits and a good place to work. We talk about all that all the time, but we don't really get into how to do it. And I think this is one of those missing links that we should be talking about more. Okay, so the seismic shift in leadership, where can people get it?
Well, thank you, Rhett, but I really don't want this to end. So can we just keep talking? I have so much fun talking with you. All right. So the seismic shift in you can get it in your local bookstore and on Amazon. And Marshall and I just completed the audiobook, and it's his voice and it's my voice, which makes it a really special thing. So we have it on Audible, ebook, hardback, Amazon local bookstore.
Awesome. Seismic shift in you, guys, go out and get it. Thank you for being on Bestseller Live, Michelle. Your book matters. That's what we do here on this show, is we bring on books that matter. And sorry that Cynthia couldn't be with us today. So you got stuck with me, but hope that was okay.
It was fabulous. I can't wait. We didn't tell our stories. So next time I'm on, we'll tell the stories, but just pretend that I'm hitting you right now in the arm, and it really hurts, because that's how I greet you, because when you're a connected person like me, you hit each other.
That's it. For sure.
And on that note,
we'll see you next week on Bestseller Live.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye, y'all. We had so many stories to share.